What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover. I am in the building with the man himself, Dr. Fayiz Mahgoub. How are you doing today, Fayiz?
Hey there, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Man, I'm super excited because I get to hang out with my brother from another mother, man. It's been so long. I feel like I haven't seen you in like over a year, but I know we saw each other down at Transitions Academy. But with COVID-19, it's really changed the game. Normally, we see each other every couple of months or so because we're always at the different conferences, doing various things and trying to make an impact in this wonderful world of eye care.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The whole pandemic has kind of thrown a lot of things out of whack. One of the things I really did look forward to is getting to catch up with all my friends and, getting to hang out at least a couple times a year. And, it just has to be virtual. So we just kind of had to change things a little bit, but
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, today I'm very excited because we're going to touch on something that I know is real dear to your heart: innovation, technology, AI. All the above. I mean, when I think about technology and eye care, I kind of think of your name and I see your face because I know you've put a lot of effort and research in this sector, and I know you're trying to really change the game in regards to bringing that to eye care. But before we get started, I mean, I know who you are. All my colleagues that I'm close to know who you are, but there are some folks out there that may not know the famous brand of Dr. Fayiz. So if you don't mind just breaking down, where you're from and just a little bit of your background and history in eye care.
yeah, absolutely. So my name is Faiz. I grew up in northern Colorado, originally from Sudan. Moved here when I was 10 years old and have been in Colorado ever since. And I went to undergrad here at Colorado State University and went to optometry school after that because I found that optometry was, you know, the thing that blended all the interests that I had. I was always interested in technology since I was a kid. I was one of those people that would like to take things apart to see how they worked inside. And when I shadowed an optometrist, I got to see all the great technology that they actually implemented in their office. And I felt that that could be a great way to blend my interest in technology with science and healthcare, which was also another interest of mine. And really lucky that I found that combination and definitely love the profession that I was able to find my way to.
Awesome, awesome. And I guess that kind of goes into, your love for just innovation and AI. I mean, you wanted to really take things apart, understand how it works, understand how you can make it better, understand how you can make a change in the industry and just in life in general. So let's talk about just your love and interest just in technology. I mean, where did that stem from? What was the first thing that you did that actually made you just say, you know what, I want to learn more about technology? I mean, was there that aha moment where maybe you were playing with the toy and you were like, I wonder if we did it differently, if it would move faster, or is there some type of experience that you actually encountered in your youth?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big part of it. I've always been a curious kid, so seeing how things worked was always something that was satisfying to me. When we were growing up, we made a lot of our own toys, so building something that you wanted to have was not an outrageous idea. So this was when I was growing up in Sudan. A lot of toys didn't come in boxes. If you wanted a toy, you find the things that you had, and you made toys from that. And so the idea of just you know putting things together was something that was just kind of came natural to me. And it's something that kind of stayed with me. I've always been one of those early adopter people. I remember getting the first Android phone that came out and installing different operating systems on it and trying different features. And so I've always just kind of been curious to see, what's out there.
Awesome, awesome. And it makes sense. I mean, every time I see you, you have some type of cool gadget with you. So I know you're light years ahead of all of us as eye care professionals. Let's jump into it today, man. Let's just talk about some of the latest trends in AI, if you don't mind. I mean, again, you have that solid background. You're constantly researching this stuff. Let's just talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So the thing that really gets me excited about artificial intelligence in general is that it has the potential to really be something that's revolutionary. And I like to contrast that to things that are evolutionary that make incremental improvements. We have a lot of technologies that have incrementally improved in eye care, but I don't really think that the pace of innovation in eye care has matched the pace of overall technological innovation. I mean, if you think back 20 years back, in the year 2000, if you wanted to go somewhere, you either had to know where you're going or you had to print off a map off MapQuest. Today, we have this technology in our pocket that can help you navigate to anywhere you want in the world. It's a platform that can let you, order food or, meet your future spouse or do all of these things that before we really didn't think were possible in kind of that form factor. So the acceleration in technology and the new things that it has enabled for us to do are really amazing. And I don't know if that same pace has actually been matched in eye care or healthcare in general. So that's really one of the things that kind of stood out to me. And I wanted to kind of explore why that was and see if there was something that I could do to help change that.
Yeah, and I think with COVID-19, it's kind of accelerated, the want and need for AI or telehealth, or now accepting some of the disruptive technology that's been out there. Simply because people know our practice really revolves around a few things. Yes, legislation, there's no doubt about that, but also the patient's demand and needs. Patients tell us how they want to have eye care. Whether it's face-to-face interaction or whether it's some type of technology where they can sit at home and do whatever it may be that they need. So it's going to be interesting to see, post COVID, how things work out, especially with telehealth, because everyone right now, it's on the top of their mind. And I'm interested to see how far it actually go, or if we'll just, like you said before, fall behind in regards to the technology and the rest of the just the world in general when it comes to technology and AI.
Absolutely. That's a really great point. And, part of it is that there is a bit of a disconnect of the overall technological world and the eye care world or healthcare because just the consumers are, it's a smaller number of consumers. They have very specific set of needs. And so if you're a company wanting to build great technologies, you have a bigger customer base building something for kind of the average consumer than you are for healthcare professionals. So I think, we need to be advocates as far as wanting to bring the benefits of technological innovation into our space so we can actually benefit our patients with it. And so that it's actually implemented in a way that is going to promote the doctor patient relationship and not take away from that. So I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that a lot. So I would love to just pick your mind in regards to how would you see us utilizing AI in a practice? Like, where do you see, or just paint a picture in regards to when you go in and you see a patient, or if you're at home, or if you're in the office, where do you see this technology taking place in our practices?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of different opportunities. And one, I think, distinguishing factor that will help kind of place things into context is distinguishing between autonomous AI and assistive AI. So, assistive AI is something that actually works hand in hand with the clinician. Autonomous AI is something that replaces a task that a clinician would do. So, both of them can be implemented in an office setting or in potentially some blend of virtual and in person care. But just to take a look at assistive AI, for example, if we're looking at an OCT scan, right now you may have your ganglion cell analysis or different other analyses that you get with that. AI can amplify the type of data that you're getting from that type of instrument because the algorithm essentially is able to analyze that data in a way that human beings can't. So, as far as picking up on certain trends, um, and matching that data, for example, with fundus photo and overlapping that data and helping you get additional information that you were not able to get before can really be something that sets the stage for different breakthroughs and different ways of us actually looking at disease and managing disease.
Nice, nice. I like it. So, whenever we hear AI or some type of disruptive technology, one of the main things that people frown about or upon is that it's going to replace people. And I'm a firm believer that, as optometrists, as eye care professionals, there's a lot of time that we spend gathering information, and we don't really need to. We should be able to have all the information at our fingertips and be able to have conversation dialogue with like this with the patient and be able to tell them exactly what we found. But when you think about an office and you think about technology like this, what happens to your front desk? What happens to your technicians? What happens to your optical team? I mean, what are your thoughts in regards to that? And when you hear this feedback from people that are not as receptive or receptive, I should say, to AI.
Yeah, that's a really great point because we're looking at the whole ecosystem and how it's going to be affected. And you and I obviously are technology forward people, and we are looking at the positive side of it. But it can also be something that's concerning if you feel like you don't have a place in this upcoming technological revolution. And really, I'm glad we're having this conversation because we can dispel that myth that technology means that we're in danger. So, for example, the example that you cited about front desk staff. Well, if you can incorporate a technology that can answer your patient's phone calls, help send your patient's records, and leave the tasks that really only need to be done by a human and can't be automated, then you're actually freeing up your staff to be able to do more things in your office. You're freeing them to be able to help you with advanced procedures with patients, with doing marketing for the practice, providing better service to patients. So just thinking about that act of the phone ringing, every 2 to 3 minutes, if you could provide the same level of service through an AI algorithm that can understand what the patient wants and help provide, say 50, 60, 70% of what the patient is looking to get, which is information, and
Yeah.
allow the patient to have access to that 24/7, then you can really free your staff up to do things that are going to help your practice grow.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because being in an office, a big office with 8 exam lanes, we have a lot of foot traffic that comes through the doors. So that means there's a lot of back end work. So we can actually, cut back on that tremendously and allow the front desk to be able to smile when the patient comes in, be able to shake hands, kiss babies when the patients come in, post COVID, of course. That'll make a world of difference in regards to just creating that ultimate experience, because that's what I'm all about. When I have a patient come in, even before they even walk into the office, when they hit the website, when they hit the social media, I want them to understand that they're going to get the ultimate eye care when they walk through those doors. And in order to do that, we have to realize that we have to stop wasting so much time gathering information. And that's with everyone, from the front desk to the doctor to the optical team members to the technician as well. So I'm with you 100% in regards to that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I wanted to dig a little more deeper into some of the challenges that we can encounter with AI. I know I was doing some reading, and one thing that really blew my mind was, and I didn't even think about this, and I should have thought about this, especially being that I'm big into diversity, is that a lot of times you can run into issues with AI with social cultural challenges. Because there's so many different backgrounds and things of that nature. I mean, what's your insight or what's your take in regards to that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. There are, some cautions that I think we should keep in mind. And I think that AI, in a way, is kind of like a mirror. It reflects what is put into it. So one of the things that, people may not have heard about, but it is definitely a hot topic in the AI world, is bias. So with an AI algorithm, essentially what you're doing is that you're feeding the algorithm some data. You're waiting for an algorithm to give you a result that you want. And if it doesn't give you that result, you program the algorithm to pretty much not reward that. And then if it gives you a result that you do want, then you reward the algorithm. That's essentially how artificial intelligence works, is it learns how to distinguish patterns on its own. It doesn't actually require you to give it explicit rules on, what the right answer is or what the right answer isn't. You're actually working on offloading that whole learning process by giving it some data and then telling it what you want in the end. And then the algorithm figures out a way to match the data to the end result that you want. The issue with that can sometimes be that you don't necessarily know how the algorithm is getting to that answer that it's getting to. And sometimes the way that it gets that answer has bias incorporated into it because the data that you gave it was biased. For example, facial recognition data, a lot of the data sets that were incorporated into AI algorithms were biased because they didn't include a diverse, basically, data set of photos of people. So a lot of these algorithms are having issues accurately identifying people of color. So something like that can be amplified by artificial intelligence if we're not doing the due diligence of making sure that we're not you know we're not being diverse enough or we're not being comprehensive enough in the approach that we're taking.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And when I was doing my research, because I knew I had to come prepared for you, because I know you're going to ask me a tough question or you're going to say something, and I'm going to be like, I don't even know what he's talking about. But the other thing that I saw in my research was that, a lot of times with this AI, for example, optometry, right? A lot of these programs are only made for, one disease. So it may only be made for diabetic retinopathy, or it may only be made for glaucoma or macular degeneration. So being able to have something where it's all underneath one umbrella seems to be a major issue. I mean, are you seeing that in the literature and the research that you've been doing?
Yeah, and I think it actually parallels another trend that we've just had in healthcare forever, which is in interoperability. So a lot of the instruments that we have in the office don't talk to each other; they don't really coordinate well, and so that I think brings down the efficiency of healthcare delivery overall. Because like what you were saying, gathering data is something that is not necessarily the best use of our time. While what's an even worse use of our time is data entry, and when
Yeah.
you're having to get data from this machine, enter into this machine, take from this machine, enter into this machine. Not only is that wasting time, but it just breaks the flow of the whole exam. So if we had instruments talking to each other in a cohesive way, the way that you and your staff try to work together, then I think that would really be better for everybody. It is a challenge because it's more work and it's more companies having to coordinate with one another. With AI, if you're trying to get multiple functionality, it's kind of like climbing two hills at the same time. So since it's the early stages of the situation, some companies see that they only have resources to tackle the specific issue, and so you may see, like what you were mentioning, a solution for this condition or this part of the eye or this part of the eye, and how they integrate together, is something that's kind of still yet to be seen. But ideally, we want to encourage these companies to kind of think in a more comprehensive way and really bring in a solution that's going to help us be more efficient, not put in more roadblocks into the efficiency that we try to build into our care delivery.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And for me, the way I look at it is that this should be easy, right? Because I mean, look at Facebook, look at Instagram, look at Google, the way they're able to cross over all this information. How come we can't do it with just basic machines where it's always efficient? I mean, I know there's a lot of different players, but look at all the different companies or programs or software that can integrate with Google. Just for example, there should be no reason why we shouldn't be able to have a smoother transition with all of the different technology that's out there. I mean, I get it. It costs money. Maybe that's the main issue, and people don't want to put up the money to make it easier. But at the end of the day, if you have some type of technology or some type of software and you can make the doctor's life easier and the patient's life easier, then it's a win-win situation for everyone. Everyone's going to be lining up to utilize your services. I mean, am I thinking wrong, or am I thinking, not the right way? I mean, to me, it seems like it's pretty straightforward.
Right. No, I 100% agree with you, Daryl. And you bring up a good point that, sometimes, there needs to be kind of an incentive as well. So, it does cost money, but, companies invest money where they feel like they're going to get a return on that investment. And, the situation here comes up where we have to generate the demand for having that experience. So if doctors were knowledgeable enough about what's possible, and if they, made it clear to companies that they have this set of expectations, there will be companies that rise to that because it's supply and demand.
Yeah.
The technology and the functionality can be supplied if there is a demand there, but if doctors have a mindset of this is just how it works and I just have to deal with all these quirks, then if you're okay with it, then no one's going to go out of their way to help change it for you unless you demand that being the case.
And why do you think we have that mindset as eye care professionals? I don't understand. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure if someone goes to a restaurant and their service is not what they expect it to be, they're going to voice their opinion about it and do something about it. Or if you go to a sporting event and someone is in your seat and you have two tickets, you're going to say something about it. But it seems like us as optometrists or as eye care professionals, we're not stepping to the plate and speaking up about we demand better technology to make our practices more efficient and easier.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, I think part of it is just kind of context and kind of how we're brought into the profession. A lot of the expectations that we have are formed earlier on. So when you're in optometry school, if you're not exposed to technology in a way that
Mm.
allows you to know that, hey, you have a hand in how this technology is crafted, you may think that you just have to kind of deal with things as they are. I think that is changing, though. I know that there are some doctors really advocating to kind of push as far as expanding that envelope, especially when it comes to students. Dr. Thomas Wong at SUNY and Dr. Howard Purcell at NECO are definitely doctors who are helping not only influence the student experience, but also the overall experience in the profession and our perception of it by integrating programs that expose students to technology and trying to integrate them with people who are creating the technology. So you graduate with this sense of understanding that, hey, if you want a new feature, how about you reach out to the company or work with folks to publish things about things that you're wanting to see, just like how we do in other areas. When we're advocating to expand our scope, we're working with colleagues, we're working with legislators. We have an agenda in mind, and we have certain goals, and we see to it that that agenda gets accomplished. So I think we need a similar mindset when it comes to technology.
Yeah, I agree. So Fayez, I would love for you just to kind of give an overview of what you see maybe 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out in regards to what we're going to see with AI. Because I know it's going to really change healthcare. And I just want us as eye care professionals to be, ready for it. And I want us to be open to it as well. So I'd love to get your insight in regards to what you see in the future when it comes to AI.
Absolutely. And I think I'll try to break it up on the assistive and autonomous side just to kind of try to compartmentalize it a little bit better. So, on the assistive side, there's a lot of technology that's going to be helping the doctor get more information per unit time. So, for example, there is software that works with anterior segment imaging that can do objective grading of things like bulbar redness. It can count SPK and allow the doctor to have more consistency from patient encounter to patient encounter, or if you're co-managing that patient, then you have better consistency between doctors. And so software like that is something that can be easily integrated into your workflow if you already have that modality of getting, say, anterior segment images. On the posterior segment side, there's a lot of software that's coming down the pipeline for a lot of the very common posterior segment diseases. That's where a lot of the companies working on this have kind of invested uh, their effort because they want to kind of catch the lion's share of um, the improvement that can be made. So one of the big players that's in the space is Google through a subsidiary that they own called DeepMind. And what they're doing is they're working with fundus photos and with OCT images to diagnose things like diabetic macular edema and offer doctors better indices and better tools. For example, if a patient has diabetic macular edema, the AI can actually get a volumetric assessment of the fluid in the retina. And so you can monitor that patient uh, quantitatively as opposed to qualitatively.
Oh, nice. I like that, especially as an optometrist. I mean, that makes life a lot easier, especially when you're trying to finalize that prescription and also conveying a message to the primary care physician or endocrinologist. So that's pretty nice. But
Absolutely.
you hear Google again, people are going to freak out. Google, if you hear Google or Amazon and you hear them getting in the health space, it's like, oh my goodness, we might as well go ahead and hang up our white coats and go find another occupation for the most part.
And that's the interesting part is that understanding where you stand and where these companies stand. Now, I don't think Google wants to open a chain of eye care practices to compete with private practitioners. Their business is data. So they understand that the future of technology is going to be very heavily influenced by artificial intelligence. And so for them to find practical applications of artificial intelligence, that's a core mission for them. And when it comes to what's worthwhile to pursue, let's think about it. What's more worthwhile than your health? What's more worthwhile than your vision? So they're looking for core problems that people really care about and they want to apply their technology to it. So when you think about that context, it's really shouldn't be a surprise that they're wanting to be involved in eye care. So I think the key is, reaching out, wanting to build a relationship to where they understand, where we stand on things, where we stand on the patient doctor relationship, and how they can be allies. Companies, when they come into a space, they don't typically have a conqueror mentality. They want to be helpful. And I think that they're, altruistic people who want to make the world better. We got into healthcare because we want to help people. So it doesn't really have to be an antagonist relationship in my mind.
Yeah, I love that. I love that mindset in general. And this is something where I feel like we should have the AOA, speaking on our behalf and trying to form that relationship if they haven't already. And then some of the big industry leaders, like Essilor, companies like that, where we know they're probably doing things or looking into this stuff, but speaking up for us, and also just private practices. We can't just rely on the big names in our industry to do everything on our behalf. Every private practice owner should be looking into this because again, it's going to dictate how we practice, and then it's also going to kind of bleed into legislation at some time. So we just want to make sure that we're ahead of the game and not trying to catch up after all this stuff starts to really kick in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think there's, something that can be done by every person in our whole eye care space. Doctors can be informed and really learn about what's coming down the pipeline so they can work with the folks that represent them in our professional organizations. I think that companies in the industry should really be, taking a look at how to make investments that are going to strengthen eye care as a whole and strengthen the doctor-patient relationship. And I think our professional organizations need to also, be doing more and then also showing us that they're doing more and helping kind of increase the awareness as well. I feel like an organization that, like the AOA, as you had mentioned, can be working on the legislative side and also engaging with some of these corporations I think educational organizations like the Academy could be encouraging, more talks about this topic, encouraging more posters. And I think there's definitely, a wide split when it comes to, say, optometry and ophthalmology on this topic. So at Arbo a couple of years ago, there were 50 posters that were just involving AI. So, you can see that, ophthalmology is not afraid of incorporating this technology. They're very open to it. They're reaching out to technologists and working collaboratively with them. And so when you're talking about where the technology goes, it matters who has a seat at the table. And so
Right.
I think, pushing all those different levers to give optometry a seat at the table is something that's super important.
Awesome. Well, I love that, that saying, having a seat at the table, because that's something that you have done when it comes to technology, just simply because you're an entrepreneur. And I'd love to just touch briefly on your entrepreneurship journey. I mean, you've done quite a bit in the industry, whether it's speaking or whether it's creating or putting together groups for folks that are like-minded to come together and have great conversation and dialogue about innovation or just doctor-patient interaction. So let's spend a little time about just talking about your journey and being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So, entrepreneurship was one of those things that I was also interested in when I got into eye care because I saw that you could, blend technology and the ability to be your own boss and to essentially be the master of your own destiny and get to control, how you, live your day-to-day life, but also how you care for patients. And so I was really interested in kind of exploring that. So I was definitely active in the private practice club when I was a student, and just worked on kind of broadening my horizons. And it kind of just kind of all came together, my interest in entrepreneurship and technology and eye care into the startup that I formed, which is Augmented Vision Labs. And my idea behind that was to try to really close this gap of disparity between, overall technological progress versus the slower rate of progress that I felt we were seeing in healthcare and in eye care specifically. And I felt like I could at least try to do my part to bring some of the emerging technologies that are really game changers into the eye care space.
So let's talk about that a little more in detail, because you have some pretty cool inventions that I've seen online and I've seen practices purchase and implement into their day-to-day activities and really made patients' lives a lot easier, along with the team members in the office. So if you don't mind just sharing with us some of the technology that you have with your company.
Yeah, and so I really do believe in the saying that necessity is the mother of all invention. And so everything that I've kind of pursued with my startup has been because of a real life problem that I ran into and found that there really wasn't a solution out there that satisfied me. And so it's just kind of my shot at trying to produce the thing that would satisfy me really. And in the process, I found that patients and colleagues appreciate that because they also have been running into that same issue and that they haven't been quite satisfied with what was out there.
Right.
So my first kind of foray into it was learning about 3D printing and product design, because I figured I had these ideas in my head and I want to get them out into the physical world. And so generating a prototype of something and testing it out was really kind of an essential step. And then 3D printing and um, uh, product design through CAD, computer assisted design, was really kind of the thing that allowed me to be able to enter that. And so the first device that I developed was an insertion device that helps patients insert specialty lenses. So mainly scleral lenses and hybrid lenses, which can be a little bit difficult because they're a lighter diameter. It helps kind of address a lot of the different challenges that patients run into when trying to insert those lenses.
Nice. Well, I would love to see some of the products if you have some with you today.
Yeah, I actually do. So this is the S5 mini. So that's the insertion device that I was mentioning. And essentially, it allows the patient to be able to stabilize their lens in place so they can have two free hands to be able to hold their eyelids open wide enough. So basically here at the bottom, it has a suction cup to help anchor it to the table that the patient is using. This here is a light unit that will actually provide light to let the patient see where the center of the lens is, and that way they can orient themselves towards the center of the lens. And with this being anchored on the table, they basically would just hold their eyelids open and bring their eye towards the lens. And then that way, it not only will hold the lens in place, but it will help them counter the blink reflex better and reduce the chance of the saline solution spilling, which reduces air bubbles. So, those were the major things that I kept seeing over and over and over when doing insertion and removal training with patients. And so I really wanted to be able to, find a way to tackle all of those. And this was kind of where that led me.
And what has the feedback been with this invention that you have?
It's been really great. It's really rewarding to hear patient stories of them being able to finally find a solution for something that they've struggled with for so long. And you realize when you're talking to patients that sometimes it's almost not uh, a realistic thing to expect them to get these lenses in with considering certain limitations that they may have. So some patients may have arthritis or Parkinson's or other conditions that make an already difficult process even more difficult. And so this was something that just helps the patient have a fighting chance of being able to learn this mechanism of being able to insert the lenses and allow them to be able to do it consistently and without all the frustration that a lot of patients experience.
Awesome. Well, one item that I saw that you had that I really loved, I thought it was pretty cool, and I feel like every optometrist should have it. Is a device to take pictures of the interior segment. I mean, I would love for you to just tell us about the story of how that came about, because we all know there's a ton of different interior segment cameras out there, but how did you develop yours, and why is your camera a little different from other individuals' cameras that are out there?
Yeah, and so that's the ISLA device, which is an acronym for iPhone Slit Lamp Adapter, and
Mm,
it's essentially a way of having easy access to digital imaging and without doing a lot of extra stuff. You're already looking at your patient's anatomy through the slit lamp, and so why not have something that's there right in place, allowing to document what you see? And so that's something that I thought, well, the technology's out there. Why don't I have access to it? And one of the issues was cost. The average cost of a slit lamp camera can be anywhere between $6,000 to $20,000. So that's not easy to implement in every exam lane that you have in the office.
right.
Um, and so again, I had a problem and I wanted to kind of see if there's a way I could solve it. And one thing that was obvious to me is that everyone has a smartphone. Smartphones have cameras on them. Is there a way that we can utilize that technology to be able to allow people to take photos? And the thing that I found across that journey is that not only are you able to just accomplish that goal of being able to take images, but you really have a lot of unique things that you're able to access just because you have a smartphone and not just a dedicated camera.
Right, right. And well, do we have one that we can take a look at today as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So
I love when people bring toys, because I'm like, as an eye care professional and as a tech junkie, I always like to see the latest and greatest to make sure that I'm stepping my game up and ahead of the curve as well.
I'm the same way. So every time I'm at a conference, I'm always in the exhibit hall, playing with all the toys, trying to see, what's available and what's coming down the pipeline. So I'm totally there with you. Um, so just kind of give you a walkthrough of it. So this is an iPhone 10R that is set up for the East Lens. So it's custom made to fit the iPhone and is custom made to also have the optics be customized to your slit lamp. And so essentially this will just go right over your ocular. And so what you would normally be seeing is what's on the screen. And the great thing about utilizing an iPhone is that not only are you able to take high quality images with the cameras that are available in iPhones, but you're able to do so much more with that data. You have Wi-Fi, so you can upload that to the cloud instantly. You can do a consultation with a colleague or with a lab if you're fitting a specialty lens and let
Mm,
them see exactly what you're seeing in real time. You're able to send those images to patients and allow them to have a more active role in the care that's being delivered to them. It has Bluetooth, so you can connect accessories to it. It has AI built in. That's the big topic that we're talking about, and the AI can do image enhancement and also can let you do hands-free image acquisition, so you can control the whole phone without touching it. So these are all things that I saw as being unique advantages of working with a platform that has billions of dollars invested into it. That's what Apple does. Not only do they create the tools that allow you to have a lot of functionality, but they also have a platform where there's thousands of developers developing things for it. So the functionality has the potential of actually expanding over time, as opposed to a dedicated instrument that was only made to have one narrow function and will only have that function for its whole life.
gotcha. And what's been the feedback with the camera so far?
It's been great. Doctors are, sending me pictures of things that, before they would have to just, estimate, what the size of the abrasion was, for example, or if they think that it's healing or not. And so here, not only are you able to document that, share it with the patient, you can, publish it, you know, if you're wanting to educate colleagues about the conditions that you're seeing. And then also, in addition to all of that, you can just, seamlessly integrate it into your workflow without really going out of the way. And, not only is that just better for the delivery of care, but it's also better for the profitability of the practice. Because if you think about how many different, remarkable conditions that you come across and thinking about the insurance reimbursement for each of those, the numbers really do add up and it can be a significant revenue generator as well for the practice.
Gotcha. So if folks want to purchase this, I'm assuming they just hit up the website.
Yeah, augmentedvisionlabs.com.
Sweet, sweet. Now I wanted to kind of switch gears here a little bit and touch on something that I really love that you've done. Young leaders in optometry. I am a part of this group. I don't know if I'm young now. I feel like I'm getting older. I'm starting to get grays in my beard, but you know what? My beautiful wife loves it, so I'm going to continue to rock these grays. But I'm still young at heart. But I love the energy in the group because this group is just a bunch of young rock stars in eye care. And in this group, I've seen everything from, a book club to CEs to presentations to just great dialogue in general. For the young leaders in optometry, why did you establish this group?
Yeah, so it was really one of those situations where I had a need to connect with like-minded folks, and I found those folks at conferences. But it was kind of tough to stay in touch, outside of the couple times a year that we'd get to hang out in person. So I wanted to create a space for us to be able to stay in touch and help inspire and support each other through our journey.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful because when a lot of us were students when YLO was formed back in 2015. A lot of us now are, graduates and practicing. But, even then we weren't all at the same place. So, some of us were a little bit further ahead and, were able to kind of share that knowledge that the rest of us were, seeking. And so, that really collaborative nature of it was really something that has been really great to see. And, I've benefited a lot from it. And I think, we're working on helping kind of expand that so more and more people can benefit from it as well.
Yeah, I really like it because it's a safe space. You can have good, authentic dialogue and conversation about various topics. And I just love it that everyone's just real authentic when it comes to whatever topic that may be at hand. And I really love the book club that you have. I think that's pretty interesting. And I love that last time you guys read the book by my colleague, Dr. Adam Ramsey, Play Chess, Not Checkers. Make sure you guys check that out. It's an amazing book. But the part that I love about it is not only did you guys read it as a whole, but you actually took it to the next step. You actually interviewed the author of the book and had the conversation about what people felt, what they learned, and it was just great dialogue. And it was good just to see you know eye care come together as a family, as a team, to really touch on topics that impacts all of us. So, kudos for that organization, that group. I am looking forward to seeing it grow. Hopefully, you guys will keep me in, being that I am getting a little older now. I am still a seasoned millennial, so you can't take that away from me. But it's a hell of a group, man. I really love
Absolutely. And you got to have people who have the knowledge to be able to share the knowledge, right? If everyone
it.
basic nobody know how to get to the next level, then it really wouldn't be that productive. So, I really appreciate your involvement and, your willingness to be able to share what you know. And same with Dr. Ramsey, like we're super lucky to have him, in YLO, especially because, he not only has accomplished a lot, but he's one of those people who genuinely cares about, sharing what he knows and helping other people get ahead as well. And it's not often that you have a book club and get to interview the actual author of the book. So I really was appreciative of him being gracious enough to let us do that. And he just continues to be one of those people that I look up to. So having a group of people like him, yourself, and all the other colleagues that we have who are really pushing the envelope is something that makes me feel better about what I'm doing day to day, and gives me something to shoot for as far as wanting to step it up to the next level.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've definitely stepped it up to the next level. I mean, you're a trailblazer. I mean, to be able to invent to make eye care professionals' lives easier with the different inventions that you have, that's one thing. But to really be able to create a space where eye care professionals can come together and just discuss topics at hand and just learn to be better and greater. I mean, that's priceless. That's unmatched. I mean, you're really making your mark in eye care. So I greatly appreciate everything that you're doing in regards to your innovation and just bringing us together. With that being said, I always ask this question to all my guests that hangs out with their favorite optometrist. And that $1 million question is, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self? Because you've done a lot, and you are getting older, just like everyone else. So if you don't mind just sharing with us what advice you would give.
That's a really great question. I think I would have to say that I would tell them to dream bigger, just because I've been, so pleasantly surprised at so many different stages of, my journey till now, and, really learned about things and learned about opportunities that I could have, never really imagined, would be something that I would have a chance to pursue. So I would say, dream bigger, and don't put any limitations on yourself or what you think is possible, because, sometimes the truth is, even more spectacular than what you might imagine that it could be.
I love it. I love it a lot. Well, for those that want to get to know you better, whether it's following you on social media or purchasing one of your devices or even joining the group, if you don't mind leaving that information for the listeners and followers today.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to connect with anybody that would like to connect on social media or get in touch with me. You can email me at faiz@augmentedvisionlabs.com. I also am on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So you can just search Fayiz Mahgoub. On Instagram, it's at Faiz_M. So I'd love to connect with everybody and carry on the discussion.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for hanging out with me, man. It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover. Thank you guys for always showing love. And Fayez, man, keep killing the game, man. You are truly a blessing to the industry. I look forward to seeing what you're going to do down the road. You're just always full of great things. And I greatly appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much, Daryl. I really appreciate all the support that you've given me. Over the years, it's been something that I've always been looking for mentors, and you've really been one of those people who had always had my back and always been encouraging, and that really does mean a lot. And I appreciate you having me on the show. It's been great to collab with you, Focus Media, again.
Yeah, 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 for sure. And I mean, you're getting love all across the board here. I mean, Larry, he thinks highly of you. Christina, she's one of the members of the group. She speaks highly of you as well. And honestly, man, I remember the first day I met you over at Transitions Academy, and I was like, who was this tall kid that I'm looking up to, And just the conversation that we had, it was just priceless, man. And you talked about technology then, and you talked about some of your ideas, and you've held true to it, man. So continue blessing the industry, and again, thank you for everything that you've done. Everyone, it's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover. I look forward to hanging out with you guys next time. Make sure that you stay healthy, stay positive, and most definitely stay blessed. All right. You guys have a great one. We'll talk to you later.